we're talking about the latest in trends, technologies, and innovations happening in the healthcare and media spaces today. I'm Amanda Preto. We are going to get Phygital with Jacob Harrison, our lead of e-commerce, and then we're going to talk about how social can be a search engine with our social leads. Let's get started. All right, so you may have heard the term Phygital, but you probably have not gotten a deep dive like we're going to do today. So let's welcome Jacob Harrison, who leads our point of purchase department. Jacob, help us here. How do you define digital, and what do our healthcare brands and pharma marketers need to be thinking about?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. Um, Going phygital is the understanding of the transference that's occurred over the last 5 years from brick and mortar retail locations to the digital presence of online retail. Um, what that looks like in terms of a go forward is you're seeing the dynamic shift of people who were traditionally shopping in stores and looking for that one to one interaction with a customer service representative being forced through the COVID era to shift digitally, become e-com savvy, and lose that one-to-one connection. And now we're kind of left in this alternate universe, if you will, where some have returned for that, direct connection, and others haven't. And the idea here is that we, as a business at CMI Media Group, need to leverage both areas and draw a connection to them by bridging the gap in our marketing.
Awesome. Okay, so how are you seeing the two intermingle? We have this need for digital, and obviously technology post COVID and beyond is a big driver in what we're all doing, especially related to marketing. So we have the need for digital, but we also have the need for physical. So what are you seeing in terms of how the two work together?
Yeah, what's incredible is 70% or more of the U.S. population actually utilizes their phones in a retail location inside of a brick and mortar store. So even in scenarios where we are making that effort to get out of the house and go shopping in person, we still find the need to leverage online technology for additional information, for understanding use cases and reviews from other consumers. And then also a huge thing, especially in our space, is looking for copay programs or deals on product from a price saving standpoint, especially with what's going on with inflation nowadays and the supply chain issues. Um, so the metrics are there to show the analytics show that there is that overlap. The importance of expressing yourself in both ways really comes down to the fact that you need to stay top of mind with the consumer, especially in our vertical where we aren't selling a product directly to the end user. We need to make sure that we stay top of mind. So whether that's in the aisle as a an opportunity for an awareness or consideration play against an OTC product, or then the connection to the digital landscape where we can help the patient get connected to telemedicine or a doctor. Both presences are heavily required to be successful in this day and age.
Great. Thanks for that, Jacob. So you have shared with me that retail store vacancies are at 8.7%. That was at the end of 2022, and that was one of the highest rates we've seen to date. So can you talk to us about how brands need and should stay relevant given that scenario?
Yeah. So what's amazing is that as COVID forced even an elderly generation to shift to digital, there was an emphasis and a focus heavily on making sure that your direct to consumer site and the resources that you had available to the patient, were there, were present, and easy to find. What we did see though was, especially with closings of stores and an inability to shop in person, that the end retail establishment wasn't able to keep up with the times. So as we were able to digitally engage the consumer with exciting graphics, video, what have you, we didn't make those strides in the brick and mortar location. So you've seen in the past, Macy's has downsized the number of stores, Bed Bath and Beyond has gone out of business from a brick and mortar standpoint, and it's that inability to shift out of that '90s mindset and that '90s style store and make the in-store experience engaging. What is so difficult for retailers nowadays and what is going to become the lever that needs to be pulled to stay in the market is going to be engaging experiences that not only draw the consumer's eye but also have them almost leading the charge in their own shopping experience, and us playing a secondary role into from the entrance of that store to their end result of purchasing or receiving their product.
All right, Jacob, can you talk to us about the approach here that CMI Media Group takes and how you're leading your team?
Sure. Yeah. CMI Media Group has been at the forefront a lot of change, especially within the pharmaceutical vertical. We have direct first party relationships with some of the major retailers, including Amazon, CVS, Walmart, and what have you. And we've helped them and worked in accordance with them in kind of crafting what pharmaceutical marketing is going to look like from an omni channel perspective. While there are traditional levers that we can pull, such as shelf talkers or kiosks in store, we're also finding that through our innovation and creativity, we're able to connect the retail experience to digital experiences as well. Utilizing things such as barcodes and QR codes, we can actually not only inform the consumer physically in store, but then we can connect them to additional resources, telemedicine, and outside help from either the retailer themselves, the pharmacy, their doctor in a digital landscape. We've seen some really great opportunity, especially evolving from straight flat programmatic banners to video, and opportunity for in-store locations as these major retailers begin to expand their practices within the pharmaceutical world.
That's great. So meeting the customer where they are on their journey. So excited. Lots to look forward to. Thanks for joining us today, Jacob.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are here with our CMI Media Group digital activation leads, Jason Sibley, Kayla Novello, and Ali Schul. We are talking about how social can be used for search, and we're going to start with Ali. So, Ali, you shared a stat with me that 40% of Gen Z are going to social media instead of Google for search. Let's dive into that a little bit. What are you seeing? What are the trends? And what should our pharma brands be aware of?
Yeah, great question. So, obviously, this is specific to Gen Z, but I think this is really indicative of where the social media landscape is headed and what pharma brands should be looking out for as their patient populations grow into these age demographics. It's also a window into understanding where things stand currently and where they are headed in terms of social as a search engine.
Great, thanks, Ali. So, how are social channels being used as search engines?
Yeah, so obviously there are many different platforms within the social landscape. TikTok in particular and Instagram to some extent is being used by that Gen Z population as that first point of contact when they're trying to search for, in particular, restaurants. They're going to TikTok and Instagram first before they go to Google search. And that's really something that's really interesting. As a millennial, I know I definitely type into Google search restaurants and see where those are on the map, but from the perspective of someone who's grown up with that technology and social in general, they're more interested in getting that like user generated perspective of everything. So when they search in Instagram in particular, they see a map of that restaurant. They see the stories correlated to that restaurant and they can put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yep, same here. So, from a healthcare and pharma brand perspective, where are you seeing use on channels, and where are you seeing a lack of use?
Yeah, so on for pharma in particular, Pinterest is actually a new interesting opportunity. They just launched their beta for pharma advertisers in September. And while this previously wasn't available, it's now really an exciting time to tap into really contextual keyword targeting, which is something that not every social platform has previously had. So we can partner with our counterparts on search to get those keywords that are performing really well from a search perspective and target them within the Pinterest platform. And then you can create content that's really relevant to your patient pain points and the contextual interests that they have.
To add to what Ali just mentioned, we talked about specifically Gen Z earlier, but we know this is a trend across all demographics. I think the latest stat I read was average American spends over 2 hours a day on social media. And to Ali's point, like a lot of these platforms are leaning into that and putting capabilities in place because they know that they're coming to them for information, for content, for answers and information, resources. And it's a great place for them to get that information, but it's also a little bit of a scary place for them because there's a lot of misinformation there. It's difficult to sift through what's real and what do they kind of need to push aside and know that that's not a reliable source. And us as marketers, we know that these platforms are becoming a core part of our plans and that we need to lean into them. And it's about being there at the right place, the right time, those moments of intent to reach them and get them that real authentic source of information to answer their questions.
And when you say authentic, I'm thinking people can search right on those social media platforms, right? But they can also search in a search engine like Google, for example. You can write your topic and then search TikTok right after, or topic Reddit, something like that. And then you'll get all those results. So it's important to marry those two things together, knowing that some people are searching right in those platforms and can also be using an actual search engine. And your results could be different. So it's important to keep that in mind as well.
That's a key distinction, Kayla. That's a big thing we're seeing with Reddit. Putting that Reddit into your search query is helping users find the actual result that they want for their pain point. They're generally looking for something related to their disease state, but they want a user's perspective. They don't want, what ad's going to be served to me. They want to hear what other patients are experiencing, and by typing Reddit into that, they're getting directly into the conversation that other patients are already having on that topic.
Incredibly insightful. Thanks, team. So let's take a step back. Talk to us about the approach that your team and CMI Media Group take. How can SEO be a part of the strategy, and how can brands leverage social channels for search?
Yeah, so it's all about that partnership, right? And we really serve as that data source. So we're used to working with algorithms, and we're used to looking into search behavior for specific audiences, whether that's generational differences or whether that might be an HCP versus consumer audience difference. So we can take all of our data and glean insights from that to be able to inform that social content. And then as a whole, that social content can do well from an organic perspective as well. So it's just expanding that footprint and expanding that visibility that a brand may already have, but just might want to boost. Or if a brand is looking to get right into social media, we can also help inform that as well.
Yeah, and I think another important thing to call out here is that these trends change very frequently. All it takes is one article, one mention for that to become a trend or a very popular search topic, right? And I know that's hard to keep up with for brands because you can't move it. Your MLR teams can't move as fast as these trends do, right? But it's important for us to understand what are patients talking about, what are your HCPs talking about, and how do we lean into that? Whether it's content, whether media strategy, how we're targeting our audiences, and so on. So making sure that our social teams and our search teams are very interconnected and sharing that information of what we're seeing on both sides, whether it's from social listening or from a keyword report on the SEO side of things, it's incredibly important for them to be talking and sharing those things on an ongoing basis.
It's important to note that, especially with pharma, when drugs are moving through their life cycle, that search behavior can change. So there are certain things that we have gained from our insights already working within the search team. And we know how brands tend to move and how search behavior tends to move as a drug goes through its life cycle. But sometimes, like Jason said, those things can change at the drop of a hat. So we have to be able to be flexible and be able to inform each other of what those search trends can be happening and what can be going on. And when we collaborate together throughout the whole process, I think that makes everything a lot more targeted.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, all of you. So unscripted lightning round. If you had to give the pharma brands, our healthcare brands listening, one piece of advice on how to get started and how to do this right, what would it be?
For me, is use all the resources you have available to you, your social listening tools, your all the keyword planning tools that your teams have. That is where you're going to find the right information and how you can approach how these individuals are using these platforms, how you can target them, how you can reach them creatively, what's going to resonate well with them, get that engagement, catch their eyes, right? Those tools have everything you possibly needed to lean into those strategies and learn about what people are searching for and how they're referring to your brand currently and what is important to them.
Yeah, I would absolutely, like Jason said, lean into those resources, especially because we have that real-time data. We can deliver those reports quickly. We don't have to wait for any data to come in on a monthly basis or something like that. So to be able to look at those trends immediately And I would also say to have your audience in mind. So we can really drill down into those specific audiences and really provide that information. This is the audience you want to reach. Here's the message that can be tailored specifically for them to interact with.
As Jason mentioned, it's extremely important to just make sure that you're working across channels with search and social, and keeping that in mind and working with all those different teams collaboratively, because when you do, you can align your strategies to inform your content creation and make sure you're being contextually relevant to the way users are searching the platforms and the types of content they're searching on those platforms, specifically for your brand's disease state.
Awesome. Thank you all for those incredible insights. So social platforms are where our pharma brands need to be, but it has to be backed by strategy, data, knowing your audience. Lean into your CMI Media Group team. Thank you for joining us on the Nth Degree. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.